anyone of you heard of this company before? Only two. Anyone heard of JobsDB?
Yes.
Ah, great. How many are using our services? JobsDB. Try to use it. I think you will have it easy today. We are having some server maintenance this weekend. Yeah, so don't try to launch our app now. Right, okay, so let us introduce ourselves. We are from Seek Asia. So Seek Asia is actually a combination of two companies, JobsDB and JobStreet. So JobStreet is another brand in Southeast Asia, which is quite prominent, quite leading job board in Southeast Asia. So we have services in Hong Kong, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and what else? Philippines. Yeah, so seven countries or regions, politically correct. So today we're talking about from order taking teams to co-ownership teams. We have me, I'm Amanda. I'm a product owner in Seek Asia. We have quite a few product owners in our company. So Kevin is our Agile delivery lead, or Scrum Masters, as many people would understand more. And Frankie, he is our tech lead. Do you have a mic?
Yes.
Okay. So you want to talk about?
Hi guys, I'm Kevin. So I've been in Seek Asia for around 3 years. My previous background was from a business analyst aspect, project consultants, and then slowly, because of the waterfall environments and change to Agile, and then BA is not needed anymore. So I need to find a way, to be more, to be sustain my income. So I'm actually shift it to Scrum, and then we'll talk about more, about our journeys later on. So Frankie is our mobile tech lead, and then yes, please.
I've joined the Seek Asia for around 2 years. So previously I'm just in a banking company, so everywhere is waterfall. So I joined this company and first experience on the Agile evolution. So let's see what we can discover here.
Right. So I'm Amanda. So I've been in JobsDB for 8 years. So I'm quite one of the old seafood, what we call local people call it. So we actually do products in JobsDB and in Seek Asia level. What products you think of about like an online job board, right? Or many people ask us this question: what products do you do? I don't find any physical products. Yes, we do online services. Whatever you use on our website, our desktop website or mobile website or mobile app, they are all our products. Everything you see and you tap on the mobile app or every button, every single job ad you see are actually part of our product. And even those that are not really visible, maybe some back-end algorithms or some search features, they're also our products. So we do have a huge product delivery teams comprising of both product design and technology side of aspects. And we have like 160 people across in Hong Kong and Kuala Lumpur. So we have two main product development centers across Asia. So maybe I can pass the mic to Kevin to talk about what kind of things that we have experienced before we adopted Agile 2 years ago.
Okay. So when we go backtrack a little bit, it's all about practical things right now in here. A lot of like learnings from different conferences, and then we actually inspire a lot of different knowledge, terminologies, framework, and then does it actually help to apply in some sort of like reality. We very complex, a lot of things we're going to cover, like we talk about some teams are working in shared resources, distribute locations, and then people got obstacles, people sort of like got a lot of resistance to change, and then company buy-ins, and then even this morning I inspired something as well, organizational sort of like agility versus technical agilities, and this is something that's very interesting. A lot of things we actually gone through and going to share with you as well. So back in 2013, our company, straightforward, big words, waterfall, waterfall. Simple as that, waterfall equals to production line for us. And then it's sort of like step by step.
Like a factory, right?
Yeah, like a factory, exactly. And then very, very easy, the first thing to establish a waterfall is like we got a hierarchy. Interesting, wow, we got different titles, in the companies, and then people giving instructions, giving orders to people, and then people doesn't know or doesn't care, about what others are actually doing. This is very common, in our company used to be.
You tell me what to do.
Yes,
I don't care the others.
Yeah, but it doesn't really means wrong, because we don't know about agiles. We don't know, about some new things to doing things. So basically, this is how we are right at that moment. And then the most common things you also experience, people start blaming and say this is not the requirements not confirmed, and then how you want me to do it, and then why you give me the last minute notice for doing some developments, and then you have the deadline, of the product launch, but I can't actually do it because I have to go through the entire, restudy, and then redevelop, retestings, and we're going to launch again. And then even though from the UX perspective, and then they will come back to you and say that, oh yeah, this design is actually, oh yeah, I talked to he and she, but you didn't know, okay, now I'm telling you. And then that is a lot of like problems in between peoples. But this is how the way it was working. But still fine. The website is still sustained, and they still can launch products, no problem. But the only situation is that one thing we actually particularly identify is the engagement of our internal peoples. And then that is something is crucial, right? When we talk about more agilities, and then we talk about more empowerment, ownerships, and then value creations, and then communication transparency. This is something you can search on Google easily. But when you talk about how to implement that, how to apply this practice, this is quite a lot of like different. It's a mindset, but how can you transform into a practical way? This is quite a bit of discussions on
Yes,
this.
and I remember our teams used to have like different KPIs across different roles. Like people have, hey, I want to achieve most visits. So the marketing teams would get more visits to our website, but they are not getting the right quality of visits and all that. And all our conversion metrics, which is another KPI of another team, would say, oh, why are we seeing these all conversion metrics go down and it doesn't make sense anymore? So there are a lot of different goals and objectives around inside the company that we do not have a clear picture of what we should bring the value to the customers. So we have an urge to change, right? We want to have a more better quality product. We want to have less launch delays. We want to be more harmonious, right, between our teams. So we actually have experienced different comments from different roles. Like as a product owner, I would say like I want the feature to be launched as quick as possible based on my wish list or based on some analysis or strategy things that my boss asked me to do, right, or on a list of product features that I want to deliver. But somehow the development teams, they also quite the designers are quite hard to visualize the product owner's ideas, and it doesn't have much room to think outside of the box. So they have all these things in their mind, but because the product owner asked me to do all this, so I have to comply with what she is thinking. So it's quite limited, constraining their thinking, design thinking. For developers, they want to do coding. They are very focused on coding. I do not really care about any other business aspects in your company. I just want all the requirements fixed. I give me 100% of all these requirements before I start any coding, right? And I then, for QA colleagues, they only focus on testing features. Hey, you have all these like discussions, but you don't really have a very well-documented product requirements, so I do not know how to test it. So there are a lot of these kind of things happening for like, and then as a product owner, and then maybe I just focus on shipping the product, and then I don't really care about what's happening next. I don't really care about whether the customer like it or not, and then I focus on the next project and just forget about my previous project. So these were the old days that we had like identified several of these issues that we need to tackle, and that's why we try to think about having Agile in our journey.
So right now we have 4 stages. Once we realize, waterfall, that is something. Hold on. Let me talk something. Why we are going to change it to Agile from sort of like jobs DB perspective. At that moment, we didn't realize, honestly, we have problem because we doesn't know about Agiles. So basically, how it works, and then by that old stage. But luckily, actually, we for jobs DB in around 2012-13, basically we got accrual by SIG Australia. So basically, SIG Australia, they are actually running in Agiles. So this is the triggering point, the turning point for us to start to realize that is something that we can change. So the first thing, when you talk about Agile, it's always hard, because say, I come to the conference, I go still talk to some people, and then people tell me about Agile, something can work faster, don't know why, and then suddenly, can work faster, and then can deploy earlier, and deploy faster. That's all right. Those, terminologies, that's okay. But they always come back to us, so how can I actually get the management buy-in? That is the most difficult part, right? But we are lucky because we are actually, our mother company is using Agiles, and then they are simply cascade the whole things to us. So the graph, we are actually going for 4 stages to share with you guys today, which is the friends, dating, marriage, and family stage. However, the friend stage, this is not something that we try to introduce Agile. This is not something we are actually looking forward to move towards. This is a reflections after 6 months of applying Agile, the first 6 months, and then in Jobs DB. How does it look like? You can actually simply see that, from this particular flow itself, it's still pretty waterfall. It's step by step. This is reflect the truth. This is how we actually do. But the after 6 months reflections, we realize that there's an overlapping between product side and also our product design. Our product design is not only for the UX designer, we also have our visual design, and also we have front-end developments.
And interaction design.
Interaction design.
And user research.
Yes. So next slide, please. So after that, within that 6 months, in 2014, the first 6 months, once we apply Agile, how we actually do and what we have done. First thing, of course, we actually learn from our mother company, SIG, and see, what is your practice, how can you actually do it, and then what is your team size right now, and then how does it work, how much we have to, put additional, talent. We just talk about, resources, but we change it to talents right now. And then at the same time, and then we also realize that, we don't have any experience. So first thing, of course, very straightforward, we got an Agile coach, and then to train us. But of course, in JobsDB itself, in the Hong Kong and also China operations, we have around 8 different development teams. And then we have 6 different functions to deal with it, including, hirer experience, candidate experience, together with matchings, mobile, SEO, quite a lot of different functions. So at that moment, and then what we actually do, the easiest way is doing it as a pilot team. We pick one team, and then we try it out for 6 months. But of course, and then you can't expect people, to try to adopt, to find a fun way, and then to have work-life balance, all the time. So at the same time, we actually introduce our physical wall, very typical one. We do everything, in a very open areas. We don't do it in a corridor. We don't hide it somewhere. But we actually doing, where people's work. So we want to doing that. We want to create the cultures, start to create cultures, start to let people to feel curious. When they have curiosity, they will stop by and then watching you to do your stand-up. When people walk past and they say, how come there's a bunch of people talking together, towards the wall? And then there's a lot of avatars and then stories and then tasks and then something is interesting things, stick on the wall. And then they're actually moving across, different columns. They will start asking and then they will start discussing. And then that is the triggering point, it is how we actually promote it and then how we actually show that, in practice, how does it work, from our side. So the other part we actually try to use, in the first place is Scrum. It just pick up, one of the, we want to do something in the time box phases. Our sprint is actually 2 weeks in the sprint. We do a proper, stand up 15 minutes and then retrospective sprint planning as well. But honestly, for that 6 months, we didn't find too much, benefits or value creations from there because we try to adapt, the practice. This is how people start to get the habits, momentum, and rhythms, to being something change, we can say. So of course, in that particular, teams itself, we are doing quite proper, we pick up some of the components, some of the good things, even though, for philosophy, people don't understand why you have to do philosophy. What does it mean? Capacity? I don't understand. Why we talk about the mandates? I don't understand. And how we're going to rate for that? We don't know. When you talk about t-shirt size, what does it mean? And then what does it mean to compare, to a task or a story or an API I'm actually creating? I don't know. How can I go to rate it? If I'm going to do that and you're going to do this because you are the senior persons, you know more than me, but I don't know how to actually, put the story points in, and I don't know what is the benefits I can get from there. But it doesn't really matter. We just try to do it first. And then we do it in a pocket way, and then we got a pocket card, all the team members actually put their ratings on, and then we start to discuss, why do you think this is easy? And why do you think this is more complicated? And then we try to connect the bridge together, and let people start to talking, and they start to have some discussion. This is the first thing. We don't wish people to start to realize, but we start to let people to start discuss, to speak out. That is the most important.
Yes, so from the development side, we as a developer, we also always in a passive way. We receive the requirement, and then now we want them to more speak out and then to talk more about the requirement and give some feedback. So we will introduce the tech lead at the moment. So we find a talent there. So in the team, we can find someone can speak out to the product owner and also the designer. So but at that time, we're still running more like a waterfall. They set up the requirements, set up the result design, and they send to us. At that moment, we want them to voice out, but nothing we can say because the requirement is already done. So yeah, at the moment the situation is there.
So we were trying to practice agile processes, try to get familiar with what agile is, but actually we didn't manage to get the essence of the agile to diffuse to all the teams there. So they are still quite trying to learn things. We were not sure whether this would work out, and that there were some uncertainty there, right? So, and we had also at that time we were having one pilot team doing that, and we had set up team KPI to achieve the same goal for the entire team. Try to do things together to achieve the same goal. But at that time it was just one team at one location. So we do see, we do have a lot of this kind of physical wall set up we write story cards, we stick on the wall, make it visible to everyone. Because we were the pilot team, so we actually want to show this to other colleagues who haven't been on board yet, to see these are the things that we have been doing. These are the things that that you can ask us about more about it, and you can know the progress about this, and to let the other teams see the value of what we're trying to create. And we do have practiced a lot of this velocity or the effort estimation, practice about story writing, and these were our first wall, physical wall. We have many of these wall in our office where gradually you kind of have all the physical walls occupied by all these cards. And it looked a bit messy, but it feels really good. So people actually feel that inside the pilot team, in fact the product owner actually feel that it's much more clear that once we've adopted this kind of communication transparency, we are more clear about the project milestone, how the progress was. But we still feel that the designers are really not too engaged with all this. They do not feel too much interest in all the technical or development updates. They feel like it's a routine task to do. They feel like, hey, okay, you set up all these rules, so I just have to follow. I do not understand why I have to do this. I do not understand why do I have to attend so many meetings. So developers also not too concerned about long development tasks at that time. They feel that okay, this product is again wasting my time again. I want to do coding. I want to do all this development work. I really care about my code quality. So don't waste my time anymore. So and QA as well. So they know a little bit about the project development status and readiness, but they're not totally ready to participate in. They still worry about the requirements are not really confirmed, what we call.
Okay, second stage is about dating. After the speed dating, I can say as friends, and then we start to move on, dating with Agiles, but also Agiles dating with all the teams in Hong Kong. And also, we start to talk about something people's are interest, cost locations. So we have development teams in China, across 2 development teams. We have our POs in Hong Kong, product owners in Hong Kong. Some of the UX designers actually share resources. It's quite a mess. It's a lot. Even now, we still have this team format, but it works really fine. Second stage, the most important part is we still have some overlapping. After 6 months, this is the journey. After another 8 months, we actually refer to this. We can see, there's something changed while we are in the journey. And then developer are talking with QAs right now. Oh, that's interesting. That may be not fully influenced, by the agile practice. It may happen because the company directions and then goals change, and then it makes maybe they have their own different KPIs, and then to match them together to work closely. It may be. I'm not too sure, at this stage either. But it seems, after 8 months reflections, it seems that, they are working quite closely. And then, so what we have done, within that another 8 months. The first thing is actually, as I mentioned, we are actually running a full agile teams. Okay, the first thing you were going to ask, if we're going to cross locations teams, how can you going to do stand-ups, in 15 minutes? The whole reason is that we was actually using Link before. By Link, Skype for business, anything,
It's not actually quite for business yet, I feel.
What? No matter there's a connection bad situation or what, we don't want an excuse, but we just want to make it happen. And this is our own main goal, to keeping the teams, engaged in a daily basis. And then the other things is like, well, after the Agile coach, and then training us for a couple of months, we start to have the Scrum Masters to the teams. But we are not one-to-one. Scrum Master is not only taken for one teams. Maximum teams was actually taken was actually 8 teams at the same time. This is horrible. And then now I'm taking 4 teams, and then but I used to taking only 2 teams. It's because, of course, Scrum Masters, and then it's like, for company, this is expenses, not even expenditure. So that's why they don't try to get as much as Scrum Master they want. But of course, they want to maximize the value creations from each of the Scrum Masters. So at that moment, this is painful as well. Something interesting to talk about. We used to have project managers. But if you ask the project managers, a typical one, to transform into a Scrum Master, the only situation in the daily stand-up, this is the physical world, right? The whole team is actually standing here, and then the project managers is used to standing like this way. Just walk away. They are not adapt, to this area. And then follow up, they go back to their seat, and then they start typing. And then the only thing they are typing is typing about the schedule. And then trying to report something to their managers or to the management and tell, this project, the milestone is okay, and nothing is going to be horrible. We still go to launch on time, and then but details, and then need to go back to the teams. That's okay. That's okay. Typical project managers doing it that way. And then, but indeed, in fact, we have one success case, from a project manager to transform into a Scrum Master for a period of time. But I was actually in part of the business analyst team before, in between our back end and front end systems, and then they identified, okay, Kevin is quite talkative, in somehow, and then you are actually in our stand up. So do you want to be a volunteer Scrum Master? This is a new role. Volunteer Scrum Master is interesting, and put on my name card, volunteer Scrum Master. And then so I said, interesting, something I never learned about it, and just do it, and then we just work it out, So we have some Scrum Masters, in our company. But of course, once we have Scrum Masters, the important part is like, how can we transform all those Agile 101 lessons to our people? We grab people, from different feature teams, from different combinations, sit together. We teach them, tell them the manifestos, and then what is sprint planning, sprint retros, and then also stand out, and then what is the importance of doing agiles, and then you have to focus on communications, transparency, you have to speak out. This is the common terms we start to talk about. People start to realize, that's all right. And then at the same time, and then in that particular journey, we also found that, actually we got cost locations, team as well. So physical world may not be quite efficient all the time. So we're looking into digital, versions, and then so we're using Trellos, free tools as a start off. Not bad, quite flexible. And then the other things, in that journey, we start to introduce is about the design pitch from an Agile perspective. Design pitch, more important is that, we want our products, our UX designer, and then to cascade their requirements, and then on the wireframe to share with the development teams and also the QAs. It used to be, one person share the information to another person, and then the second person share the information to the third persons, and then in between of the communications, there is a tricks of the informations. And then at the same time, the more complex is that, once you're trying to cascade into the 4th or 5th level, and then at the same time, POs, they start have some requirement change again during the journeys. And then that will be quite horrible in this journey. So that's why we introduced design pitch. And then for some critical projects, some revamp projects, some new features, and then we gather all the people together, and then in the same room, 30 minutes or 1 hour maximum, and then we talk about the requirements, talk about our idea. The other part I want to mention is about showcase. One thing is quite interesting, and then when we talk about Agiles, we only talk about the process, but we also start to realize, okay, if we talk about process, who is actually going to work in this process? We actually need to focus on people as well. Showcase is one of the very interesting things, and then to get people show off, to let people show off, no matter from the product perspective, from a technical perspective, share with the management or share with wider group as well. What things they're actually passionate about and build on, and that this is something we want to visualize and tell people ahead, there's something great. So showcase, it used to be, when we start off in this stage, we used to be only happens in a team format. Team format share with the management. This is the only thing. So we have a number of showcase by a weekly basis. We do it when each sprint finish, we just do a recap, and then we just do a sharing with the management at that stage.
And something like the design pitch, in the development side, we also have the development review. So which is after something like at the end of the sprint, we will show up what we have done in the sprint and show to the product owner, also the UX designer. It's also, we try to take out the gap between the UX design and to the development, because we don't want to pass the information one by one. We just get the whole team understand what we are doing. So we try not to, because the design pitch help a lot for the QA. Previously, we received the requirement and pass to the development and then pass to the QA. Normally, there's a lot of gap there. After the QA, oh, what is this? It's rubbish sometimes. It's really not our expectation at the moment. But now we have these two kind of development review and design pitch, which help a lot for the QA. And also, we introduce channels, which help a lot for the co-location communication. Because previously, we talk about we have a middleman in the stand-up, which need to capture all the requirements for the developer, and then the developer based in Hong Kong need to communicate to the mainland developer. And actually, the communication may have a lot of misunderstanding of the requirement, because this developer in Hong Kong is not doing that product sometimes. So there's a lot of wrong communication there. And finally, I will talk about something like the habit of the developer. Because come from the waterfall, our habit is want to report something after we finish something. So on the daily stand-up, actually, we don't want to update too much because I'm not finished the task. Yeah, I just want to say in progress. Yeah, in progress. Every day, at the end of sprint, it's done. Nothing we want to say. Yeah, so at the moment, we want to say the team feedback. We want to gather a lot of team feedback at the end of sprint, as in the retro. But hello. Don't want me to give feedback. So during the retro, actually the developer also blame in the retro. The requirement is missing. We always say a lot of negative stuff in the retro, but without any action there. So yeah, this is the situation of that time.
And at the product end, we do have a lot of restructure as well in terms of the team and all that. We focus more on, by that time we had a new protocol, talent search, if anyone used it before. We want to create a talent marketplace where employers can find job seekers, right? So we try to consolidate teams to build that product together across different disciplines and functions. So we try to have this coordination between different teams, and but it's quite complicated because all the teams have just been trying to learn about Agile, try to practice about Agile. So they all have different maturity, they all have different understanding, all have different ways of estimating story cards. And so we have a lot of alignment work to do, and we try to create a program view to look at how these things actually work out across different teams. By what time we have people free up to do certain parts of the task. And related metrics, actually we are not only measuring the velocity of the agile teams, how quick people do work, but we also do a lot of analysis on the product performance itself. In the beginning of the sprint, or actually in the beginning of the financial quarter, we actually set up some KPIs for each team or each stream to define what does success look like, right? What is the right metrics of this defining a product is successful. So we keep monitoring after like the product has been launched for a while. Analytics team would keep like looking at these figures and try to summarize the insights, where product owners will try to share these insights with the team. So the team have more understanding. Hey, the amount of work that I've been gone through, I work overtime for 3 weeks every day until 8 p.m. Hey, the work I've done are actually impactful to the market. So they get all this information from the product owner, product updates, and performance updates.
So this is what we mentioned. We used to have Cheryls to do everything. This is real cases. One of the teams, actually Job Power is using that, used to be. And then we tried to put all the efforts, a lot of like rotations, and then sprint as well. When we actually start, this is our goal. And then if you map it into the real world, this is what we call the user stories and tasks. And this is where is our epic settings, used to be. But there's no linkage. It's quite flexible, Any team can move anything, and then so this is something when we start off as a kindergarten, no problems. This is nice.
And after all, we practice all these things. We have seen that it's quite like having Trello implemented helps co-location team management, more transparent on project status, which is great. And also for designers, they have an easier management tool to help them manage design tasks, keep better monitoring and follow up. Developers feel that they are more easier to know about the product design because of the design pitch. They know about the product design, the thinking, but sometimes the specification they find, the design specification, is not really in sync with the product requirements sometimes, and they will always keep asking the product owner or the designers, hey, which behavior you actually want to achieve in this scenario, or things like that. So there were still a lot of these kind of unclear situation. For QA, it's also like, because they were also involved in the design pitch, they also know about the product design and thinking direction, but they also find that because of this is not in sync requirements, they find that it's hard for them to do their work testing.
Cool. So the summary, of the last 2 stages, and then once people start to get into the habit, they know how to run, Scrum, Agiles, they understood, but they just come to the daily stand-up, wherever office, every day, 15 minutes come here, and then just say, work in progress, and then 70% done, and then by the end of the sprint, they say it's done. So basically, they actually, there's no value creations at all. And it's just a practice, happen. This is horrible. And then the second part, in the Agile part of it, we are not part of that team. They call us, we actually have new names, we are called Agile Facilitator. We are not even a Scrum Master. We are facilitators, That is horrible. So along the journeys, we realize, we need to build up the empowerments. We need to keep the team bondings. At the same time, we have to leave us to another stage, to bring more values to contribute to the team. Something is wrong. So this is another year. This is the most painful years that we actually gone through. A lot of things, big things, a lot of new initiative we trying out, in the Agiles. We're trying to keep the team bonding. At the same time, we are actually do an M&A as well with JobStream, 2 brands. Two brands running together with different agility, sort of like maturity. This is really horrible stage. But it's interesting, and then we still go through something, after the years. You can see the chart is actually moving. Now, PO is across, everything's. UX is, extend their sort of like boundaries, and then as well as like same correlations between developers and QA. So what does it really means in here? It means that, PO is not only giving requirements, but they also do support along the design and also the development's journey. They actually support, supports the people as well as UX. However, that is still a problem after the year. It's still only support, but they're giving instructions. Still giving instructions, still giving some information to the team, but it doesn't really empower people. So this is the stage we was actually going through with another year of time. So a lot of things we are actually doing. We change our channels to a Jira and Conference, more enterprise versions of things, which is really nice. We're using Jira and Confluence right now. Very, very integrated tools, and then we are actually evolving that. We are not actually doing the task management by right now. We are actually focused a lot of the team performance as well. This is something these tools can help us to do it. At the same time, for Showcase, we are actually evolving as well. We are doing in a jobs DB level. So we're doing in the monthly levels, and then all the teams are actually have their something in their pocket, something they selectively is like variable things they want to cascade to a bigger peoples, and then that is the way they're actually doing things. We start to do team identity as well. They've gone through the Agile 101, all the trainings, but now we need to tell them, you guys are in a team, but how can you guys actually work on the same goal? That is very important. They used to have separate KPIs and then separate different goals to meet. But now we are actually training them, or even though cascade the message to them to tell them how they actually work as a team to focus on a single goal. What are the value creations from the team itself, from your side, can bring us back to influence into our product or the business directions. This is something we do along the journeys. And then the more important part is the culture shift. People start, when people start to engage in our Agile practice, people just come and go all the time. Not much interactions. But now, after another year of the journey, it's interesting. People start challenging you all the time and say, this is not an Agile way of doing things. Why is that not? You have to go through. Is that okay if we go for 25 minutes rather than 15 minutes? Our retrospective, who is actually following that, feedback? Is there any actions we're going to react in the next sprints? And then there's some good things, although there's a lot of challenge, but at least I'm happy. Teams are happy because people start asking questions, start to aware of the importance of this. So that's why this is whenever people are giving you challenge in Agile journey, this is something, it's an initiative for our growth and the improvement. This is something I really like it. And then at the same time, we focus a lot of like velocity and burn down, which is we know the practice. People start using that. But of course, people start to getting into habit. They don't know what is the values. We want to try to make it more visible and tell people, to do a self-team evaluations. While you guys are working in the same time box of time in a 2-week sprint, and then with the same amount of talent in your team, and then rather your productivities, along the journey is going up or down or still remain. And then this is something we start to look into at the same time.
So during the moment, we want to have some cultural shift of the development. So we will introduce the hackathon there. Because our product delivery always generated by product side. Product is the starting point. But actually in technical side, they have a lot of idea for our product. Let's say they want to have a new style stuff on the website. So it sounds like no much channel for them to share. So we introduced hackathon there. They can give up idea for the team, and then they can form a small group and then do the product within 1 day. Although it's 1 day, but the outcome is very good. A lot of idea there comes out, and then the management look into that. Oh, there's a new value there. So it's quite a good moment for our development team to enjoy on the hackathon there. And then for the daily stand-up, as I talked before, we need to communicate with the mainland China developer. But now we cross-brand. Also, we need to talk with the Malaysian team. So Jira and Confluence help a lot on this kind of stuff, because when we talk about only JobsDB brand, and then everyone know about the product requirement at one brand, but how to understand two brand difference, two brand domain knowledge. So we need to have a lot of documentation on the conference so that everyone can log into it. So it helps a lot for the developer to understand different brand difference. And we have also introduced the technical pitch there. Once previously we have the technical review. It's showing something we have done and then to the others. But now the pitch is something we have an idea how to deal with this kind of things, and then we share to the other what we want to do. And then they can give some feedback, and then we can change the plan. If we move faster, then we don't want to do something wrong there. Yeah. So here's the change of the development.
So as Kevin mentioned, we had gone through the merger with JobStreet to form CKation. We used to be competitors. JobsDB and JobStreet were competing in several markets, like in Indonesia, in Singapore, and other markets. So there was still a lot of mindset that we need to compete with JobStreet. Some people do still have that kind of mindset. And we had a lot of very similar products. We had a lot of very similar like skill sets, and also people thinking about products in a very similar way. So we actually had a lot of discussion on how can we better leverage our manpower to do products more efficiently across two brands, right? And how can we do product design once and then try to adapt it into two different brands. And that kind of things, we had a lot of work to align with the JobStreet colleagues, and a lot of knowledge sharing across product owners, across the designers, across the developers as well. So there were a huge piece of like work in there, and there were also some uncovered opportunities in the market that because we have already merged, right? So we are the absolute market leader in Southeast Asia. We are combining the market share of both JobStreet and JobsDB. We are #1 in most markets. So there are more business opportunities. How can we uncover them, and how can we try out, experiment new things? So we try to introduce things like Inception, where the whole team of different discipline, product owners, developers, designers sit together, think about how to address a particular user problem, and then try to work out some design draft and then some draft planning about how this can work out, and then try to convince the management to see whether it's feasible to carry on the project. So there were so many different things happening at that time, shortly after our marriage.
So this is about Jira. If someone's using that, and then you will see pretty familiar on that. This is our uplift, versions of we using Trello before. Now we're using Jira's, and then it's more governance. There's a lot of like control restrictions or workflow applying to this, and then makes the whole teams feel interesting. But the whole point is that you got the tools, people will start updating informations, but seems, you require too much. You ask people, remember to put when is the fixed version, when you're going to launch something, and then your velocity as well. Remember to put comments, and then on that. But the whole reason is that it's not asking them to report something to someone. It's like about transparency. So if we want to doing that, we need to integrate a lot of different, components or business units, get them on the same boat to work on the same thing, to make it some value things. This is one thing. We are actually doing it right now.
So I think, yeah, after all these changes, we have been very great to discover team achievements by having all this transparency. And it helped a lot in future sprint planning because we know from our backlog, from our velocity, what kind of things we can plan ahead. For designers, it's more effective in completing the project design because a lot of scenarios are already brought up earlier in the process because the developers and the QA were involved in the design pitch and also the technical pitch. So developers also start to feel that it's like a project co-ownership, like, hey, I was involved in this process much earlier than previously, and I'm been more like contributing my thoughts and ideas. I have my influence as well to the product, to the design. And since so many more features were built and ready to launch, we actually have multiple teams and we try to launch much more product features at the same time than previously of the pre-Agile age, right? We had a much more product delivery, which is actually quite proven that Agile works quite well in our organization.
We come to the last stage. Compared to the marriage stage, very identical. Do anyone recognize anything change on this graph for this stage?
The UX is with dev and QA.
Sorry?
UX is with dev and QA. Your UX team is working with the development and QA. No overlap.
Yes, overlapping. That is important. The graph shows, some overlapping in between. So what does it mean, In the last stage, in the marriage stage, we used to provide a lot of support, from different units. But this is not enough. We are actually thinking, because when we talk about ownerships, empowerment, what does it mean? It means that, all the individuals, they have their capabilities. But in somehow, maybe in the process, maybe in the team itself.
Or the hierarchy, right?
Hierarchy, yes. But at the same time, somehow, they are actually assigned of doing some things. Used to be. And then they are actually used to be work in that mechanisms or that environment for too long. And then, but we want them, they are actually, there's a reason for them to sitting in the company. And then there's some capabilities we can actually take out from them. But it's just in terms how. So in this sense, for this particular stage, right, this is where we are right now. We actually have a very significant change that our developers and our QA start talking a lot. And then they are actually, from a bottoms-up approach, they're actually giving a lot of values, creations towards our product directions or even the product design. So they are not only have support by the people, but at the same time, they are actually an influencer to the product to be success. This is very important.
Yes, we product owner used to give a lot of the requirements, a lot of the details to the designers, to the developers. But in this stage, actually, product owner actually set the problem and just brief to the team, and then invite the team to give input and feedback on try to, hey, challenge my thinking, challenge the way that the status quo. Why is it has to be this way, right? Why are you thinking this way? So product owner just throw out the original problem and also some initial thinking of the approach, but it's not a finalized requirement. It's not something that's fixed. We need the team's involvement on different. You guys have all this expertise in design, in user research, in development. What is the right approach? What is doable within the next few sprints? These are the things that we do not want to go back to the old days where we have all these layers and miscommunications and delays and overheads. We want the entire team to talk to each other, to keep challenging each other's thought. Developers can give feedback to the designers. Hey, your button actually is not really prominent. As a user, I cannot really notice how it goes, where it is. Or designers may be challenging the developers as well. Hey, actually, can you, I discovered somewhere, I read some news about this kind of front-end framework somewhere. Can you actually consider that? Product owner as well would also try to guide through all these discussions and try to stay back a little bit, but try to give enough support and also in case there were some decisions need to be made, we all try to come up with a team agreed answer.
So, the last part, where we are now and moving forward, what we have done. A lot of things, for Scrum Masters right now, for me, I'm actually part of I have a new title again. I'm being a social worker in the company. So basically, somehow, I need to do, I frequently do one-on-one with people. I have cooperate with 40, 50 members, and I spend each of them, with them in a half-year basis, I do 30 minutes. So you can calculate how much time I spend, individually to talk with them. And to not coach them, but they coach me. So how can I do better to help them, to empower them, to make them shine in the company? So a lot of things we are actually doing. Because of this, a lot of duties I need to improve, continuous improvement from the team itself, and then across different locations. And then we are actually introducing Scrum on Scrum. So yeah, to free me up sometimes, I'm actually better to train up someone to doing the job for me. And then I can actually step back. And then as a holistic, point of view, I can see the real root cause problem, from the people. If I do drill down and then into that particular daily operations, it really doesn't make sense because I want to make them as a value contributions part of the journey. So that's why I need to step back a little bit, do a lot of observations, and then give them some, right direction of doing things. At the same time, we do a lot of process and surface integration and consolidations. It means that to bring up value, we are not only focusing on the feature teams. We actually grab, all the other surface and info team as well, like our strategies teams, analytics team, infrastructures, service management, all the teams, across our different locations, brings them to engage with us in some kind of process, to make the whole part, as an ecosystems. And then to make the whole agile, approach, and then the cultures, make it happen, in the company. Start talking and start reacting. So the only things we are actually, the last things I want to mention from my side, basically we are introducing portfolio as well. Now we have the burn down chart, we have the velocity to analysis, to evaluate our team performance. But at the same time, we are working on more on big projects. A lot of initiatives are coming through. How can we do prioritizations? How can we see as a cross, platform co-locations, situation? How can we best utilize our teams? And then how can we prioritize our tasks? So actually the portfolio idea is actually everything we're talking about the Gantt chart, about the project's, life cycle, and then we also focus, on the capacity plannings and production schedulings. This is something we try to have some predictability or forecast of this information for us to plan better.
Yeah, so for the development side, the time is running. So I just mentioned one point, the development's ownership. So right now we are designing the product together with PO and the UX. So when we do the project, actually we will also look into the product KPI. So we will know what is this and what is the outcome of this kind of project. I think we get a lot of achievement on doing this kind of process. Yeah.
And by having all these improvements in delivery, we do deliver a lot more than we used to have. And because of this improved capability, we have a lot more projects to work on, a lot more distractions sometimes. You guys are working on this and that. So people also started to feel a little bit frustrated. Hey, what is the company need to focus on, right? So, so starting from this financial year, we have been more like set up more like some initiative focus, looking at holistic level, the entire company in terms of strategy. What kind of the top 5 or 6 things that we need to work on, and only focus on this and try to get away all the distractions, all the side projects, try to focus our team on these areas. And also we have more opportunities to learn more from other SIG brands as well internationally. So SIG Asia is only one of the subsidiary of SIG Group. SIG is an Australia company. It's actually been acquiring a lot of different brands all over the world. We have sister companies in Brazil, in Mexico, in China. We are also investing in some African companies. So we have a lot of like sister companies. They have a lot of similar knowledge that we can leverage, and we also do some of these global projects together nowadays. So there are a lot more for us to take on, and our teams are quite like, okay, now that we feel good about co-owning the project in the SIG Asia level, what's the next, right? Next step to try to step up a little bit, to take about something that we can work globally with the global team together, and then we can have our influence to have our impact to other global brands as well. So this is something that we are trying to achieve right now at this stage. So, thank you. So this has been a great sharing with you guys. Anyone have any questions? A lot to digest, right? But yeah, feel free to ask us any questions. We have some books to give out for those who ask great questions.
Scrum, so all good Bible for good Scrum practices you want to try. It's more about how organizations and groups of people together. So some stuff that's very much related to this journey of friendship, dating, marriage, organization. Yeah.
So yours is not a virgin. Okay, my question is, guys here, would you be able to, for example, come to our organization? You invite you to share your journey. This is really, really romantic.
Right.
From dawn to dusk, or even in the future. Would that be feasible at all?
Definitely, we would love to. We can also invite some of your people, to come to our companies as well, and then to explain, to explore, how we actually go through the journeys. Because even though for Agiles, we are not only talking about the process people, but we actually focus on very typical settings as well. Even though our settings in the company is in the open areas, and every teams that sit very close to each other as a functional teams, so people start talking easily, in a sense. So a lot of things, a lot of details that we are actually focused on, and then we actually keep evolving at the same time as well. Free to doing that.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, I got your contribution.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an evolvement. We often always find something like, is there a magical solution that if I introduce this single change, my entire team is happy or whatever? There's no such magical things.
But you have the benefit because the head office is using it, and then you don't have to
biggest pain points during the Agile adoption?
From technical,
Maybe.
agile.
What were the biggest ones?
Biggest one,
Mindset.
mindset, one of those, and I can see people start being don't care sometimes. It's very typical, you know. People, a team of people come to the stand-ups. They used to sit like this one, and then they start playing their phones, and they say when you ask, you know, what is your task progress, and then they were actually telling you, you know, what do you say? Yeah, still in progress. And that's it, you know, that's it for the stand-up. Thank you, see you tomorrow.
Or sometimes people just walk in.
And then they just walk out.
I have something to rush in, so I just give my update first. I've done this, okay, bye-bye.
And then the most horrible thing is like, you know, when you try to run agiles, people actually come like a zombie. Stand up, okay, and then move out. Without any passions. When you see people don't feel passions in their daily work, no matter in a Scrum or in an Agile, momentums, and then it feels frustrated, you know, because you are not actually helping them to maximize their productivities by actually digging out their capabilities. And then this is a shame. They must be something. They are not happy. The root cause of being successful in an Agile process for me, and then and our team as well, is being to treasure about people's capability. And then for our job is to how to make people to package it as a nice person and sell it, you know, to a wider group of people. Our success is coming from their success. So basically we are working so closely, you know. They said, you know, they have the KPI, you know, to meet some KPIs, you know, in their features, but we are part of the team as well. And then we are actually cascading all these informations to all the delivery team's member. And then because we are only work for one goal, if she fails, we are also fails. This is the concept. But the most important part is that we are very positive. So a lot of times, you know, we focus a lot of rewards and recognitions. Not only in the individuals one, but now we also introduce in a project level as well. And then in somehow, it doesn't mean that, you know, in a year of time I have to pick 4 of those, you know, the best recognized one, the most important one, we are actually treasuring them. But indeed, we are actually doing quite surprised, you know, when this team, this project is significant, you know, in the process, in the cooperation wise, they're doing good.
And real business impact as well.
Exactly, and then we will go to try to talk to the management and try to in any form, in the town hall, in the emails, or even though in some real contributions to reward our peoples, to share the joyful, you know, among the journey.
So sometimes it's like people say, hey, you have all this management buy-in in adopting Agile, right? You have all this advantage, right? But there's another side of the story, like you have the management buy-in, but how do you also get the buy-in from all your people who are doing the real work, right? So yes, the management buy-in is very important, but we also need to have a bottom-up approach to match that as well. So that we can have a more successful organization, right? So it's more like how do you call it? Like the rewarding things and all the team spirit and all the team collaboration actually help creating this co-ownership feeling. Hey, this is not only your product owner of the business requirements. It's actually, hey, we are solving real world life problems together as one team. People really matter, and my contribution really matter. And we really, for example, even for product owners, a lot of us actually try to understand more about the tech side, about design side, and we learn from each other as well. We appreciate each other's work, and we also understand each other's expertise, and there are more like respect and team harmonious in general.
Are you guys planning to do some more to continue your journey, or do you think the journey is we're about there, or is there some next steps that you would like to take to become more agile or more efficient?
I think we are evolving. If not in a daily basis, we are doing in a sprint basis. We are trying different new things, and then in different teams, and then to find their momentums, and then to customize a little bit for them. So even though for me, if I say, we are actually using the agile concepts, but actually we're doing a lot of customizations to fit the teams, because different teams have different capabilities, the way of working, and then their mentality as well. We can't say if one team is working fine, of course we're trying to introduce to another team as well. But if it doesn't work, we're going to roll back the process, and then we're going to find a new way of them working. It's pretty dynamic. But of course, we are actually not going too far, from different directions. We are still in the scope of the agile, as a SIG Asia-wise sort of like standard, and then we're trying to make some things fun. And then the more objective, we tell people, work-life balance is important. How can I make you to come back to work, not 9 but 10, but you still can finish up work at 5:30 or 6? That is the most important part. Because I need work-life balance, you need to, right? So let's have fun, Start 4:30, we start drinking. Even some of the retros, we do some reflections, we do activities, and then we also do drinking as well. And then doesn't really
We
matter.
allow alcohols in the office.
Huh?
We allow alcohols.
Yeah, allow alcohol. Even in our showcase, 11 o'clock in the morning, we put some beers as well, but no one drink, of course, 11 o'clock in the morning, right? So of course, we treasure that. We want people to drink beers. We shift our showcase from 11 to 4 o'clock on a Friday. It makes more sense, right?
Yeah. So you can see from the banner, my job motivation fun workplace. So this is really something that we really strongly believe in.
How to solve? We only have two
One more question. One more question.
If you're going to these new technologies and Skype for business, etc., do you still see the need to put people together for 2 weeks to brainstorm about the ideas, or do you do everything online?
Well, we do have try to arrange visits from different locations. For example, when we need to do a design sprint or we need to do inception together, we see it is a necessity to bring the people to physical office, and face-to-face conversations is much more important than to do it over the tools, because we feel that this team intimacy is quite important in terms of bonding the relationships, and because a lot of time virtual teams, if we have not met each other in person, you are not really caring what they are thinking. You do not understand what are their concerns, why are they thinking this way. By having people co-locating together for a short period of time, it's much more important to kind of, at least at the beginning phase of the project, is kind of important to synchronize our understanding, synchronize our thinking, get along to know each other much better, which will help the subsequent tasks and collaboration thereafter. Do you have more experience on that?
Yeah, actually, I've run a project on Malaysia, but I need to travel to there for maybe 1 or 2 weeks every month. So at the beginning, yes, quite hard time for me, and yeah, my family bring me a lot. But for the project, as I know the college more, know them more, so I can talk to them more easily. And now we have a daily stand up there, and then I think the relationship of us is very good at the moment. Yeah.
And you actually learn a lot more like Malaysian Cantonese as well.
Yes.
落水啦，
落水。
一出邊落水。So I think it's important to have both, like virtual tools have a lot, but it cannot replace by physical contact.
Okay, well, I'll leave it up to you guys to decide how you want to give out the books, but can we all give the team from CK a round of applause?